All right. Money dance time. Woo, woo, woo. We got to raise the vibe, right?
Oh, yeah.
I always think we need like at least a minute straight of just dancing. I had the most fun. I got on a show once, and the woman, I was like, "Man, your vibe is high." She's like, "I do a like pre-podcast dance every time just to raise the vibe." I'm like, "I love it."
That's awesome.
So, welcome everyone. Today, you're back for another NFA Money Talk, where you know that we dive deep into all things money. Business to me brings out the biggest fears and uncertainties and doubts. And it's like this roller coaster ride of, I think of it as a roller coaster ride of awesomeness that's really going to help you discover yourself in ways that you never thought it would. And so when people come on, I love to talk to them about all the ups and downs they've experienced so that they can help you know that you're not alone, and also know that other people go through it, and we want to help you navigate through it with more grace, ease, joy, flow, and fun. So that's why we're here. So Dr. Alex, she'll go into all of her story. You know the jig, how I kind of love to ask people as we just dive into this deep conversation, and it's this unfolding of the experience. So she'll get a great intro of everything awesome she does in the world after we just start with a fun money question. So let's start with what would you say is a current money fear you're working through right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. The current one I'm dealing with, I think, is around worthiness and
Ooh, okay.
letting myself deserve it.
Okay. Ooh, let's
On
talk
some
about
level.
this for a minute.
Yeah.
Can you, my computer's going real slow. So just a second, everyone. This is the fun with live sometimes, is that it doesn't always want to do what I want it to do. Okay. So let's dive into that a little bit, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
In some ways, I would say it's maybe the core of all money blocks, right? It's like, am I enough?
Probably.
Is
Yeah.
my business going to be enough? When will it be enough? Even when you're making a lot of money, like, is the money enough? Like that kind of thing. Will you share a little bit about how it's showing up for you, the worthiness piece?
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of that, just what you shared, but also, I found, and I'll share more of my story as we go through this, but in my first business where it nearly hit 7 figures, it was, I just never managed to keep the money, right? And that was very much driven by a money block. It was like I was in charge of something that was producing a lot of revenue, but we really had nothing to show for it. And I definitely wasn't the one making all the money, because I had this thing where like, oh, it's all about the team, and the team is what did that, and it's not about me, and not wanting to take the credit, where really not like I should have. There's this weird thing for me with like humility and just owning my power and who I am, and so that's kind of the block in the worthiness of like, that's how I'm viewing this. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So to me, it sounds like worthiness, meaning like I don't deserve the credit for building this.
Yeah.
So then, were you
Not somebody
overpaying
else.
people that worked for you,
Oh,
or
definitely.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it was one of
Things I
those
learned.
problems where like you weren't paying yourself first, and you weren't paying yourself enough, and draining yourself, which I know led to your current business.
Yeah.
Like the way you run your current business, let's say.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So worthiness. So I know that, for people who are watching this live or later, in the comments, share something about this. Like, if this resonates with you, I don't think I know an entrepreneur who doesn't have some variation of this at some point in time. That piece of, and we're talking, Dr. Alex was a 7-figure earner. So like, she's successful in business, and she knows how to build a business, right? Exactly. And that's one thing where we can go, it almost makes me think of like living paycheck to paycheck, where it's like you can be bringing in a massive amount of money, but still not having good cash flow in your personal life, because you're not, if you have this money block where you go like, I'm not worthy, you're going to overgive to other people. Could be your clients, could be the people that work for you or with you on your team. And then you undervalue yourself, and then you burn yourself out, and then but that business is no fun. So, share something in the comments if you're watching this at it, live or later. Does this resonate? How does this show up for you? And then, Dr. Alex, will you share some of your background story, because I know that really relates to a lot of what you do in the world with people now.
Yeah. So my doctor at this point comes from being a chiropractor, and I practiced for 10 years. I built we were just shy of 7 figures. The biggest year we had, I think we grossed 800,000 or just over, built out over $1 million. And I built all that as a single mom, going through a rough divorce, rough marriage relationship. And, it was kind of my like escape, but I also didn't know what I was doing. Like the first time I sat down at a bank to try to get a line of credit, they were like, "Where's your P&L and balance sheet?" And I was like, "My what?" I literally knew nothing about building a business. And so I experienced a lot of success. We more than doubled every year for 5 years, but it also burnt me out because as I was going through, you brought up in the beginning of this, like we learn a lot about ourselves, and it's one of the most, I'd say, like confronting and challenging things you can do to yourself is to own and run a business, because it literally challenges every piece of you, and you have to go through so much growth in order to be able to lead something like that and grow in that way. And there was this moment where I just bought a 6,000 square foot building. I had, at that point, 12 staff, like 7 providers, 5 support staff, this huge space. And I walked up into my newly remodeled office. I just spent another $100,000 like remodeling this thing. And I was like, this is not the dream. Like, this is not what I want to be doing. I was burnt out. My thyroid was jacked up. My hair was falling out. I lost my voice. I had no energy. Like, I wasn't practicing what I preached. And my wrists, I've had 2 wrist surgeries since that time because it was torn to shreds from being a chiropractor, and, something I love, but really hard on me physically. And at that point, I didn't really necessarily see a way out because I'd built this huge thing. And
yeah,
it wasn't serving me. Like, I was not lit up, excited, not loving what I did. I was dreading coming to work every day. It was all the, all that. And so I've, and a lot of my story, I ended up going through a whole pivot that unfortunately last year ended up resulting in me filing bankruptcy on that initial business, just the way all that went with the pandemic, a bank that really just wanted to be a jerk, and a lot of things. But I've built this new business, and in the last couple of weeks, I haven't talked about this, but I've been seeing some patterns with myself of like overgiving and not charging enough or not asking for enough upfront, and kind of running myself ragged again. But now I can recognize it and be like, oh, let's not do that. This time. Like, it's time for something new. So there's a whole lot to unpack in there. But
I mean, you said so many important things there. I want everyone to hear Dr. Alex in first the vulnerability of sharing, because I think a lot of people have shame around like the perception of bankruptcy as failure versus like going, this is part of the game. Like there are ups and downs in businesses, especially COVID. Also, I mean, I want to dig in more to you, standing in your office that you just spent $100,000 on and going like, oh crap, I didn't build something I want to build. Like I built a prison out of my business and I don't enjoy it anymore. Like that's huge. Yeah. And then being willing to pivot and just go like, I'm doing something else. And sometimes that happens through force, right? It can be like health degradation, and we don't want to get ourselves to that place. And it's easy to do. And so, I think there's a lot of value in what you're saying and sharing. So thank you for being willing to share that story. For you, when you were, how long did it take after you noticed that, where you're standing in the office going like, oh shit, I just built a prison for myself? What'd you do next to get out of that situation?
So I started, and I always have this story. And my story is I didn't necessarily do this well, but I knew a couple things. I knew my body wasn't going to hold up to adjusting. So I started looking for other ways to serve and, do the things that do light me up and that I love, which are, helping people heal and transform. Like really my thing is more about transformation, and chiropractic was an avenue to that, but it wasn't my zone of genius. We talk all the time about this in our connection, but, so I got certified as a health coach and started making some moves and started, doing more functional medicine and bringing on some clients in a different vein. But, at the same time, when it rains, it pours, right? So at the same time, because I had other people who could carry the chiropractic side of the business and all that, but we also hit our like 2/3 of our income came from one in particular insurance company, and they broke their claims processing and didn't pay us for 6 months. And so all of a sudden I'm not able to cover payroll and not able to do all this stuff. So I was pivoting like so fast. It was like overnight, we don't take insurance anymore. Everybody's paying cash. Then that particular company told me I had to wait 90 days because that was my contract with them. And I was like, are you going to pay me? But anyway, so we got through that. I had to downsize. Like some people decided to move on into something new that were on my staff. So things shrank, and then I didn't need that building anymore. So I rented it. Then they bought it. that wasn't enough for the bank. So, they were still coming after me for a
Mm,
bunch of money. And I was like,
let it go.
I'm just done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and finally really reaching that point, like, even though, and I've worked with you some, one of the things that, just for those listening, that Dr. Amanda had me do was write down 250 good things that came out of filing bankruptcy. Because especially around, I'd built, my team was really my family, and I'd built, just a really great family environment. Our culture, our office culture was amazing. And that is something I miss. And I'm working through recreating in like an online space because it's a little bit different. But,
Yeah.
so I miss that. But looking back on, all of them have grown into they're all owning their own businesses or like doing their own thing that they wouldn't have done had I not pivoted and, made a
Yeah.
change for what I needed and let that be okay.
Yeah. So background here, Dr. Alex and I, we met actually doing podcasts with each other. And
Yeah.
then she heard about my NFA Money Mamas mastermind and joined. And she like such a beautiful part of the community. And it's part of that recreation of community. And in there we give, we have money talks and we read books about wealth consciousness and raising your money mindset and all the cool things. And of course, I bring strategies to the table to help people shift through their money blocks. And so the one she's talking about, like, anytime you have a negative charge on something, you're seeing the unconscious, you're seeing consciously only the downsides of the experience. So to shift your brain to seeing the balanced equilibrium of it, you want to start to focus on, what were actually the upsides of it, so that you can start to bring into your awareness all parts of experiences. And that way you don't need to keep recreating it, because you will keep attracting to you the things that you haven't cleared in your, historical wounding or things that you perceive as traumas. And so, Dr. Alex doing this list, it's like, I mean, I know for you, like it was like it's like the family you create in a business. And so then that feeling of like letting them down and thinking somehow that it was a drawback to them, and not seeing the benefits to them of the business going away in the way that it was. So really powerful practice to do, everyone. And of course, for the ladies out there, if you're interested in being a part, you can sit in and test it out. Really cool. Just go to nfamoneymamas.com. And we have like these kind of conversations in depth all the time. So that's what Dr. Alex is referring to. Something for you, will you share, because you're talking about that worthiness piece, and then you're talking about the shifting, in your business and owning the parts of all of it. And then, you said something about how, in your current life, you're recreating a business where it feels connected and balanced, and then you're noticing some of the repatterning of overworking still. So, share a little bit there, because again, people, we will recreate patterns until we clear them. We just keep recreating until we get conscious of them. And so that's like Dr. Alex is doing that. And so that she can have a business this round where she feels abundant, joy, fulfilled, flowing with money. So will you share some of the process that you're going through there to start to make sure that you're charging what you're worth and valuing yourself so that you don't burn out?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I did most recently, and it was interesting because I actually did this in my first business, like right before we had some massive growth, but I sat down and figured out what my values are personally and for the new business, which I hadn't really done. And I think a lot of us don't. It's, like we're so focused on like, how do I make more money, or, how do I do this? Or someday I'll pick my head up. And so I've really been intentional about just taking time and processing some stuff and getting clear on, like, getting more clarity, I think has been huge.
Will
And
you
then the other
share like
thing,
what
yeah,
values mean? Like what does that practically mean to you?
practical. So values are like the 7 things that, I have my personal ones and then business ones that like basically define, like those are the things that I cannot violate, I guess you will say. And so
Okay.
they act like a doorman,
Okay.
more or less.
So
So
it's
like,
like, because I know people think of values differently. Like there's,
mhm,
the way, and I know you're DMartini, like trained through
yeah,
values determination, which is more or less like zone of genius activities that you love to do, like
mhm.
priorities, versus values like being like honesty, integrity type of thing.
I mean more the honesty, integrity, like authenticity is one of mine,
Okay.
like,
Got it. Okay.
yeah, being
I just
raw
want to
and
make
real,
sure people
all those
know,
things. Yeah.
because there's a lot of different interpretations of that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's values lists. So I just sat down and like, picked a bunch that make the most resonate the most, and then actually write a sentence for each one. So I have like 7 personal ones and then 7 or 8 ones for the business. And in doing that, and then the other thing I did was like sat down and actually made a list of what things do I really, really love about what I'm doing right now. And one of the things that kept coming up was like, I have a group aspect to what I'm doing with women. And just to give a little background, I help women not get to the point where I was at, where like health is falling apart and you haven't been taking care of yourself and you have no idea how to actually start doing that and putting that into practice. But I've recently, since the beginning of the year, started doing a group part, and I love our group calls. And I was like, and I don't necessarily love, I love every woman I work with. I don't necessarily love being on Zoom for 5 to 6 hours a day, in back-to-back one-to-one sessions where I feel like there's more power in the group. So that's been one of the big pivots for me. And that was one of the things I recognized is, I recently did a bunch of stats on my practice, and it's like, I'm spending way too much time with people for what I'm charging. And like, that is the thing that's going to burn me out again. Cause I've really tried to model a business where time is not money.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think that there's phases of business development where that's possible?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cause you're like, if you don't mind sharing, like you've been this business round of this, of your new business is how old?
I started it in January of 2021.
So January
full on
2021.
did it. And we hit, and that's the other thing when you come from having, nearly a 7-figure business, it's like I broke 6 figures last year, and it was like,
because you're comparing it
so much more
to before.
And it's like letting go of that comparison. And and I've talked to you about this because I know you're working on the 7-figure business. It's like, who says we have to build a 7-figure business? Like, can't, you can have something that's a lot smaller, but is more profitable, and that you're
totally. Yeah. Well, and that's such an
in,
interesting thing to think about, right? Because you could go, oh, I have a 7-figure business, but I don't bring home very much. Or I have a 7-figure business and I bring home almost all of it. Or I have a 6-figure business, bring it almost all home. Looking at those numbers is pretty important. And I like what you're saying is like you're reverse engineering a business from a place of going, I choose not to burn out. And so, in that business model, I can't have to be hours a day, 7 days a week, or 5 days a week, or whatever it is. Otherwise, I'm going to burn out. It's looking at alternative ways to create impact and income in ways that don't burn you out.
Yeah. I don't know who it is, either Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, one of those guys. Someone said, a business plan without a health plan is a recipe for disaster, more or less.
That's awesome.
And I was like, that is so true.
Yes, right. It's like, I think of it as holistic approach to building your business. Like, do you have a holistic business model where you're looking at like, how do I sleep? How do I feel every day? How many hours am I spending standing at my desk? Is my desk, like I have a standing desk, I'm like, is my desk comfortable? Do I take breaks? Like all those things, because in the building of a business, if you are resenting it and feeling burnt out, you're not as magnetic to money, which then forces you to work harder and then causes you to burn out even more. So you get in that real negative spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's breaking out of, because especially in the chiropractic profession, and I think in a lot of like service-based businesses, it's, you have to, there's only so many ways you can make more money, right? It's like you either see more people, or you work more hours, or you do some combination of the two. And so for me, it's been interesting to just be like, okay, no, like I don't need to be focused on how many people I can fit into an hour doing coaching sessions. Like I don't need to, do that. And it's okay to create something that works for you. Like,
right. So it's a business model that doesn't burn you out. And my model might not be the same as yours, as someone else's. Which, okay, let's go back to this, because I think this is a really powerful conversation in terms of the, what's the 7-figure goal? What's the 6-figure goal? Why do we have those goals? So right now for you, like what is and then we can talk about even if you want goals or what they are, but like what is the next kind of, quote unquote goal for you?
I would say it's like mid 6 figures right now. So like 300,000 to 500,000 a year.
Okay.
But like the bigger goal is for me to actually be paid on that. Like I've done a lot of, I read Profit First. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he has model for like paying yourself in that structure that I'm like, I have this before, because that would have made so much more sense. And just experiencing like, I do have a doctorate degree that costs me plenty of money. And I'm actually, I'm finishing up a PhD this year. Like I should be paid, a certain amount based on my education and like having a business that can both support that, and not from a selfish place, but that gives me so much availability and freedom to just provide more in the world.
Yeah, I love this because I think about this a lot, like goals, why do we have them? And it's like, it's a target in a direction. And I've picked this apart a lot because of my 7-figure goal. I'm like, why do I have that goal? Is it important? Is it just to prove myself? Is this about imposter syndrome? Clearly I don't need 7 figures to have, my life is absolutely amazing. And I don't have 7 figures yet, so it's like, I think about that a lot, like, what is it about the goals we set? And, so it's like, I like that idea that you're saying is like, it's that holistic piece, where you go like, okay, I have a business plan and a health plan. And part of that health plan includes making sure I'm paying myself enough from, a mid 6-figure business and living the lifestyle I choose in that. I'm curious, what do you think about goals in and of themselves?
So let me say this. I think it's good to have goals. We need to have a dream and a direction, right? I tend to, and I actually do this with my clients. I really love Brendon Burchard's dumb goals. And then I made up my own slim goals. Okay. So dumb goals are, you have a dream, it's uplifting. And then the M and B are the methods and behaviors that will take you to that dream. Because I get really frustrated with SMART goals. I think they're just boring and like not inspiring at all generally. Because I will do this by this time.
No, I don't like it either. Usually it causes people to beat themselves up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you said this is, okay, so I'm going to write it down for people. So and this is Brendon Burchard.
Yeah, and you can, there's on YouTube somewhere, there's a short video where he explains it better, but it's a dream,
uplift method, and then what?
Behaviors. So the behaviors that will.
Okay.
And so those get a little SMART goaly, but when they're connected to a dream, it's a lot better. So
that makes sense. It's like, what's the point of doing anything if it's not connected to the vision of fulfillment of the dream?
Yeah. So I like that model. And then the other thing I use with goals is something I came up with, which I call SLIM goals, which are sustainable, life-giving, intentional, and mindful. Because a lot of us will set goals, it's like, oh, I want a 7-figure business. But, I've got 5 kids at home and like, and why? Like, why? Because there's a give and take. Like I don't want to say there's always going to be sacrifice, but finding like we have to be able to, within the context of our lives and what's important to us, again, values, like find the balance of what's, I don't want to say realistic in like a boring sense, but like what's actually going to give you life and serve you. Because you can push to that and, be miserable like I was, or we can pivot and just enjoy life in the present and take what comes your way.
Okay. So you said it, I missed, you timed out in part of it. It was sustaining, and then what?
Sustainable, life-giving, intentional, and mindful.
Okay. I'm going to write these down and let's talk about this, because this is really, really powerful stuff. And okay. So you said sustainable, life-giving, intentional, and mindful. I love this conversation because to me, this is what it takes to not burn out. Right. It's like being mindful and having goals that are sustainable. What really came into my mind when you said that was not comparing yourself to other people, like their success, and going like, oh, well, they did this, so I've got to do it too, without considering exactly like you're saying, like, well, maybe you have 5 kids at home, or maybe you don't have any business experience yet, or whatever it is. You're starting at a different place and your lifestyle and context are different. And so it's like, okay, let's do something that is sustainable so that I feel good while I'm doing it. And it gives me life instead it takes away my life, as I'm just hustle grind mentality, which a lot of entrepreneurs get into. And, that intentional piece moves into it. I was playing with this like literally this morning. So I love that you said this, because it was like, whenever I'm doing my scripting in the morning, it's like that 7-figure thing. It's like, I've really begun to drop. Even at the beginning of this year, I was like, okay, journey to 7 figures. And then I'm like, I'll get to 7 figures when I get to 7 figures. Like, does it matter if it's in 2022? Like, perhaps it's going to happen faster than I thought, or maybe it'll take twice as long as I thought. Who cares, as long as I'm enjoying the journey along the way. And so I play with that a lot. And I, that piece of proving yourself and comparing yourself to other people and that kind of thing, because like you, I'm all about energy and going like, I choose and decide the life and energy I create every day. And I'm not going to do things that I beat myself up and cause negative energy to cause it to take longer and feel crappy. So really awesome. Okay. So when you're working with women and will you share a little bit about like the type of women that you work with?
Yeah. So I, even though I look even younger than I am, I tend to work with women in their 40s and 50s who are kind of in that transition area of life. Like, and obviously my focus is in health. So dealing with a lot of perimenopause, menopause, their energy is tanked and they are looking around like, what did I do with the last 20 years of my life? Because they're finally empty nesters or whatever and have the capacity to like take stock of what's been going on in their world. But, so I'm helping them get their energy back, bring their hormones more in alignment and balance without using drugs, surgery, that kind of stuff. And really transforming who they are so that their bodies express themselves in a different way. We'll put it that way.
That's awesome. Okay. So you do mindset transformational work mixed with remedies.
Health stuff.
Health remedies. Okay.
Yeah. So mixed with functional medicine. So I do a lot with nutrition and a lot with, I use some herbs and supplements and stuff. But because of my PhD training, which is based in quantum physics, which you and I have had lots of quantum physics conversations lately, and relating it to health, there's a lot more that I'm doing now that's based in neuroscience and neuroplasticity and actually creating transformational change, which is not something you just snap your fingers and do. But
no, that is one thing that I think. I mean, I'm sure in your business you have sometimes these people that say to you like, well, can you, it's like, I want the magic pill now, you know, like, and I want it sometimes for myself, it's like, I want to know.
Like with our health and with our wealth, that's two places where we want it to just be a quick fix. And it's it's often about the journey. So
yeah. Okay. This is amazing. Okay. So you've built, if you're just plugging in, Dr. Alex has built a 7-figure business, a 6-figure business, and she's, very versed in the ups and downs of business. And she's very vulnerable and willing to share the ups and downs that she's had. And so will you share with the NFA family 3 tips to get to 6 figures faster? So what would your first tip be to get to 6 figures faster?
Faster. That's interesting.
I know that we were just talking about not necessarily having to be fast.
Yeah. So this is, I'm going to have to think about this because not like I feel like it just happened. Like, obviously I know some stuff that, helped me reach that point. But the first would be really clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it, I would say. Because if you're not clear, you're going to try all the things. There's not going to be clear direction. People aren't going to be sure what you're doing or why you're doing it because you're not clear what you're doing or why you're doing it.
Okay. Before you move to the second, let's dig into each of these. Okay. So clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it. Let's say someone's watching and they're like, okay, well, how do I do that? What are some tips you recommend to help people get clear on what they're doing and know why they're doing it?
I would ask yourself and journal about it. But the other thing that really helps that is maybe defining what the mission of your business is. I hate value mission statements, actually, honestly, but they have helped me clarify a lot. And again, going back to those values, like what is the purpose of your business? What does it serve? For both you and the people that you serve, whatever that looks like in the world.
Okay. And would you say purpose of business means what is the number one thing I bring to the table for my clients or the people I work with? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah. Or even going, I like to go big picture and then kind of bring it back. So the last time I did this, what I envision is in my new business, which is called Emergent Women Coaching and Health Consulting, is 10 million women across the world empowered in their full self-expression of who they are.
That's a big vision. I love it.
That's a big vision. I'm like, oh shit, that's probably a 7-figure business if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes
because you're making huge impact.
You get clear on, your true vision and impact is much bigger than maybe you're playing. And that is something that will take you to 6 figures rather quickly. Because when so that's really what I mean by clarity and vision. And so how I'm able to get there sometimes is by boiling down my elevator pitch or the exercise I did with this came from, I went through something called business finishing school, like early on in my business career. And so I just recently like came across the binder from that. It's like from 6 or 7 years ago. And I was like, oh, some of this stuff's really good. Maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
So the idea was, like purpose and just a sentence, like we exist because or for blah, blah, blah. And then creating a catalyzing statement. So that catalyzing statement was, 10 million women across the world who are fully empowered in their own self-expression.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So for
If
everyone,
that makes sense.
like I hear you saying journal. Yes. Brainstorm and daydream about what is the bigger vision of your business. And then, one thing I think sometimes people get stuck and overwhelmed with is the big vision. They're like, oh, I don't know how to get there. And I want everyone here to remember, you don't have to know the answers at once. You just go one step. And, I love one of my favorite quotes. I have a few that I just love and love and love to live by. And one of them is, as I take a step on the way appears, by Rumi. So as I take a step on the way appears. And just remember that every day. Live by that in your business, because you'll be surprised what happens on your journey. Just like Dr. Alex, she went into chiropractic, brick and mortar, had a big team, 7 figures, and then completely shifted and is doing something in similar vein, helping people in their health and transform their health. And it's just in a very different model. And so just trust that the universe will bring you the ways. You don't need to know all the answers right now. So the clarity is that, okay, this ties back to goals in some way. I really like to use goals as a way to envision fulfilling my biggest potential, not like, I will lose 30 pounds in 30 days, or, I don't do it that way. I go like, how do I want to feel in my body? Even if it was a weight loss goal, let's say, it would be, I choose to feel powerful and healthy in my body. And so I dedicate to exercising 30 minutes a day or an hour a day or whatever it is. And then that gets the goal accomplished on its own timeline in the best way where I feel good doing it. And so, getting to learn what you want and why you're doing it. So, why do you want to build your business? Why do you choose to help people? That kind of thing. So that's an awesome tip. Okay. What would you say for tip number 2?
Tip number 2. I'm thinking, so the thing that keeps coming to mind, when I was going through building my business on my own, I like hit a plateau. I just remember being and for me, that was like number of visits, right? Because that was basically my business model at that point in the chiropractic world. And so it was like, I finally just got so frustrated and mad. And I was like, I can do this. and overnight, literally, I doubled in how many people I was seeing a week. It wasn't great for my wrist, but, so, and I don't really know, like there was something obviously that shifted, but if you find yourself stuck or like the questioning or like just realigning yourself with like, I can do this. I can do this. And did I hit the level I thought I would in school of like 300 visits a week? No, but 130 was plenty on my body. So
yeah. Okay. So when stuck, I was thinking when stuck, get realigned.
Yeah. I think that works.
Yeah. And realigned, like it sounds like for you, it was cheering yourself on, reminding yourself to stay on track to fulfill your vision.
Yeah. And there's like the healthy version of that and the unhealthy version of that.
Yeah.
So, like now if I'm, feeling like my energy's low or I'm not dreading, but like not excited about something that I have in one of my days or, but I'm asking myself like, why is this a thing? And just trying to align with, okay, what do I really want to be focused on and doing? And like, what's the easiest path? And then I guess that would be the other thing is simplify. This is another thing I'm thinking through. Like, get really good at one thing.
Oh, this is a huge one.
For the 6 figures.
Simplify. So when you say get really good at the one thing, describe what that means practically, because like in business, there's so many things to learn. Like I always think about like 3 business hats where it's like, we've got the marketing where we got to learn lead gen and how to bring people to us, convert them and all that stuff. And then we've also got our area of expertise. And then we've also got like just business growth. You got to learn like how to build a business. So in that alone, like I tell people all the time, don't overcomplicate it, narrow your focus to expand your freedom, focus on simplifying.
Yeah. And I would say like, we do have to wear all those hats. And so it's in all of those. And in a brick and mortar, there's even more because it's like your office manager and blah, blah, blah. And like I tended to hire single moms. So I actually had an in-office nanny because we had 4 kids under the age of 5 that were just there.
Yeah.
And that's just how we rolled. So, getting good, but like the thing that I really focused on that carried that first business, I would say, was just serving. Like I was like, we are going to provide the best service possible. And so that came across in our marketing and how we, interacted with our patients, and, how we took care of people. And I actually didn't ever market that business. It was all word of mouth. But
Wow.
I just,
Yeah.
I was really focused on how can we best serve other people. And that was like the
Okay.
pillar. And so it
So
could be simplifying in that sense, but I also mean like, if you have like 10 products or something, maybe you just pick one.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I know Russell Brunson. I learned this from Russell Brunson and I really like it. And actually I even simplify it down further than him because he says, don't create more than one product until you get to $1 million. I tell people like, don't focus on more than one thing until you get to 6 figures. And I made this mistake myself. And I don't really believe in the word mistakes, so it's like I overwhelmed myself by having a lot. It worked. I got to 6 figures in my first year, but it was like, it was a lot. Like I worked hard, I worked a lot harder than I choose to work now. So I go,
yeah,
like, if you want to make it simpler on yourself, focus on less, just the more complexity you add, the harder you're going to need to work at first. And, then, once you get to a certain level of income, then you can branch out. And, Dr. Alex and I've talked about this throughout this conversation. It's like, how much are you taking home? Because if I made 6 figures and I only brought home $10,000 a year, who cares? Like 6 figures isn't doing me good. It'd be better to go get a job and have stability in certain ways, So it's like always remembering, okay, what's my bottom line in terms of the income I choose to bring in? Simplified by knowing what is the fastest path to cash that I enjoy the most. Okay. So what's the fastest path to cash that I enjoy the most? Do that, do that, do that, do that, and then get that to 6 figures and then see what you want to expand into. And then you already have a model to replicate it after. And so, that simplification process, I think it's so powerful in helping people not have scattered energy and scattered thinking and scattered, work in the world.
And I'm still working on this myself, I would say. But if you think about like when you think about scaling a business, and this was, these were words that again, I was like, what the hell does that mean 5 years ago? But growing to 6 figures to 7 figures, like if it's not simple and reproducible on some level and like it can just flow, it's not gonna grow. So
right.
Just remembering that, like the more you complicate it, the harder it's going to be to grow it to what you want it to be.
Yeah. I think in that too, it's like remembering to the mentors you hire, look at their business model and see if they have a model that you enjoy. And like, is the lifestyle they've created with their business model one that you want to follow? Because they're going to teach you how they did theirs. And so, in that hiring of mentors and coaches and following, even listening to us right now, like if this resonates with you, you're going to end up building a business like we are, which we reverse engineer from our lifestyle perspective, where we go like, how much time freedom do I want? How much time do I choose to spend with my kids and my partner? And like, what do I want to do in the world? And it's this holistic picture. So, learning from people who are modeling that is really important, I think, because you can scale your business through like intense work and stress. Like most people do that. And so, I think that's something that's beneficial for women that they bring to the table. It's like softer in a way. What do you think of that? I'm curious.
I do too. So I've been around a lot of business coaches, a lot of male business coaches, and I've also worked in all female, like our NFA Money Mamas, and I've been a part of another, female-centered business mastermind that was women on the journey to 7 figures. And there's something unique about us in that, the energy is different and we don't have to be the like driver, CEO kind of asshole is what I think of, like the male energy. Like we can, be centered in our femininity and still lead and grow and, be really successful in business while taking ownership of who we are. And so like, that's a big thing for me with, full self-expression and like, cause that makes a difference in our chakras and in our thyroid and all this stuff is like owning who we are and growing a business from there, not trying to mold ourselves into something we're not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's so interesting. Like as a sociologist, of course, I'm always analyzing these things, like gender differences in business. And I think you're right. It's like it's about masculine, feminine energy, and a man can have feminine energy in a business, and a woman can have masculine energy in a business, and you can decide like what level you want to put in. And I so agree with you. You know, at the same time, there's like different vibes of cultures for men and women in business, and I love when, you know, for me, it's like always that up leveling of like, whoever works with me, let's raise our wealth consciousness so that we feel really, really good doing what we're doing. And, you know, always living by that mantra, work less, make more, have fun, meaning like live in your zone of genius, do what brings you joy, attract money your way, love the building of your business so that you don't burn out. And not even that, that's not the goal. It's not so that you don't burn out. It's like, enjoy it. Like, this is the only life we get to live, you know, in this body. Like, let's just enjoy it.
And let's create what we want it to be. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. We've got a comment. So let's plug in and see. This is from Zamba. Hello, Zamba. Thanks for plugging in. Oh, I don't know if you all can see our faces because the comment is long, but let's put it in there. Know people's business models. If you look at your hired mentors' business models and their personal lifestyles, and you follow and love them with enough quality, that's how your lifestyle will turn out. Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Zamba. And yeah, you know, thanks for being here. And if you have any questions for us, of course, ask them. We would love to share our wisdom and experience and knowledge with you. Okay. So Dr. Alex, will you talk a little bit specifically? Oh, I forgot I need to hide that comment so we can see each other. Will you talk a little bit specifically about, like, in your world of, you know, business growth, what are some more money lessons you're learning right now that you're playing with? So, you know, so I know we talked about worthiness, and we talked about, you know, the deservingness and charging what you're worth and changing your business model from that perspective. In that space of let's say wealth consciousness and becoming more money confident, what's a money confidence tip that shines for you right now that you can share?
So what I'm really working through at this point, like I've been breaking even for, I don't know, 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm over at. So I'm really working through, you know, setting money aside and putting it somewhere where I don't see it, but even if it's just 1%, and like be like, it's there, and that is profit. So you know, working through it, it doesn't all have to go right back out. And then the other thing is, you know, I've been pretty good at having shiny object syndrome. So I'm really taking time before saying yes to anything like new or additional or related to business growth, because I've reached a point where
you go back like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, did it freeze? You froze on me too.
You timed out. So will you go back and share it? So you said, you said putting money aside for profit, and then you started to share something else, and then you timed out.
Okay. I have to remember what I was talking about.
I know.
Setting money aside for profit. And I've always been really good at having shiny object syndrome.
Oh, shiny object syndrome. Okay, yes. Yeah. That's when you tuned out. Yep.
I'm really like being intentional with not letting myself do anything right away, and like thinking about it, you know, just like sitting with it and being like, is this aligned, and really getting clear on that. And even taking, you know, weeks to do that, but like using a powerful no for now. Even a lot of the things.
It sounds like even with yourself.
Yeah.
Like no for now. Let's wait and sit on this.
Yeah. Because I've been really good at spending money I didn't need to spend. Honestly.
Yeah. Would the spending of the money be on like learning more? Is that one of the ways?
Typically. Okay. And that's the other thing that probably gets into more imposter syndrome. There literally is nothing that I need to learn at this point, except maybe like how to do things on YouTube, which I know you're learning. It's hilarious. My son turns 9 this week, and he just launched his own YouTube channel entirely on his own. And I'm like, I think he's been watching other gaming channels and like figuring out how they do things, because he's like, Mom, here's my plan A to get 10,000 views. Here's 10,000 subscribers. Here's B, here's C, here's Z. Like he has this whole plan. And I'm like, okay. But like, you know, and that's not in my wheelhouse right now. So like of the things that I do, there's really nothing that like skill I'm lacking that I need to learn, right? It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
more geared at my mindset and all of
Yeah.
that. So
Okay. So like everyone here, this, and I often think those things are combined: shiny object syndrome and imposter syndrome. It's like
yeah.
we can get scattered in our thinking and think we need to know more, which causes us to get stuck in that fallacy that we need to learn everything under the sun, and then we'll get started, or and then it'll be good enough, or then it'll attract more money. I had such a similar thing where it was like, I remember very vividly, I was at a DiMartini event and I had just gone to like several in a row and spent lots of money on it. And I learned a lot. It was incredible. And he was promoting the next thing. And I was like, and all my friends were like, are you in? We're going, let's get the room now. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to implement. Like I finally came to that moment where I was like, I'm not learning anything new here, and I don't need to learn anymore. I know what I need to go build a really successful business. And that was a huge turning point in my business. It was like, okay, go implement, make the money, have the money in that I'm bringing in, then pay for something that's fun for me. Like learning is my number one value. So I love to learn. It doesn't have to be a shiny object syndrome thing or an imposter syndrome thing. Yet I think that people, especially in new businesses, get really stuck and freaked out thinking, I got to prove myself through having all of these labels, and I need to know take every course. And I know you and I have labels, so there's that. And I think the difference sometimes is like, I love to learn versus the scarcity feeling. I need to learn to make sure I know enough so people take me seriously. You know? Yeah. Okay. So for you, it sounds like you're setting boundaries for yourself. Like, I'm going to wait to spend money on that and decide if it's something I really need right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And then one other thing, you said you were talking about, I'm going to scroll back up here because we put it up here and we've talked about so many cool things. Setting money aside for profit. So I want to remind everyone here how important this is. Like if you're not paying yourself first in your business and you're just outgo, then you get really discouraged over time. And it doesn't feel very good to be working hard and not paying yourself. So set up the habit. And, it sounds like this is something you're starting to do. Are you noticing a difference in income yet from this practice?
There's been other things in my way. I know, like mindset wise recently. So, but I'm starting to I've started asking for more money up front and then having more to set aside. But I am pretty good about, I use some tools in the online banking world that allow me to like create envelopes. So, I put money in envelopes for like my known expenses and a profit amount and like, here's what I pay myself amount, so that it's always there. And then I know what I have left.
Perfect.
So that is helpful to do.
Yeah. So shifting money habits in business. I think it's interesting. I wonder like chiropractic model a little bit, if it's like the mentality is like, well, you have this big overhead. And so it made sense that was the business model. And so we buy into that a little bit. Do you think that affected you?
I think so. More, that business model where you're trading time for money and like your only options are to just see more people, hire more people to see more people. Whenever you have payroll, like that was 3/4 or like 90% of my overhead. The actual overhead of like the physical space and utilities wasn't that much. It was payroll. And I didn't necessarily hire I probably overhired. I think I could have had fewer staff and supported the model better.
So learning through that process.
It's a learning curve, that one.
I'm curious for you now, like in your business model, as you grow this business, would you do subcontractors, employees? Like, how do you treat it differently based on learning that lesson?
So in the virtual model, I've got 2 VAs that I use currently. And could I boil it down to one?
Different.
Probably, but very, very different. One's in the Philippines and one's in Phoenix. I live in Alaska. So it's, it's different. And I've been thinking about and looking at that because I love the team aspect and all of that. So like things I would hire are like another health coach or, something on that model. But I think it depends on what the needs are. And you can outsource a lot to VAs these days. So,
and then project based versus, and I want to say could be the freedom or the burden of payroll, right? It depends on how you treat it. And so
Yeah.
again, here for everybody watching, no matter what your business model is, you're going to need to take the time to assess, what brings me the most profitability and feels the most joy filled on this journey. And is that, in that reversed engineer way, you might be a person who loves managing people. And then you're like, sure, I want a massive team. You might be a person who's like, like for me, I'm like, I'm getting to 7 figures with like subcontractors who I love, and that's it. I like to keep my business model very simple and take home as much pay as possible. And of course I reinvest in my business and learn, and I always pay myself. I've always had a minimum amount of pay myself every month, and it goes up every quarter. And I just keep doing it with the faith, like more money will come to pay myself more money will come to pay myself more. And so, that's for me just been one of those attractor magnets of money, like creating a vacuum in terms of profitability, where you go, okay, I create the need in my personal income, to have, okay, like, I need to give myself a raise basically. So I create a vacuum, and then the universe provides more people in my business to pay for the vacuum of need. So, great fun things to think about as you're building your business. Okay. So share here, people watching who would want to work with you, share what it is that you do. I'm going to stick your info up because I know people are going to want to connect with you. This is where you can find Dr. Alex, everyone. I'm going to stick it up here big and loud and proud. There we go.
There we go. So, women who are overly stressed, maybe not feeling your best, your energy's in the toilet, you both don't have energy and don't have motivation and don't know how to get one back or the other. Specific to your health, a lot of what I do is in the health world, but wealth is also a part of our health, I think. So there's,
absolutely.
culmination of all of these things. The easiest way to connect with me is at Emergent Women Coaching. I focus quite a bit on women and hormones, so thyroid, and then our sex hormones especially changes as we go through menopause and perimenopause, because those are a thing. And then I've also got a podcast where Dr. Amanda was a guest like 2 years ago, but called Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high-performing women. So you can connect with me in either of those places.
Okay, and you said it's Emerge. Say it again.
Yeah, the health podcast for busy, high-performing women. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put it in here so everyone has it because it's awesome. Such great conversations, like really, really, I mean, you can tell just listening to Dr. Alex here, it's like really heartfelt and just present, transparent, will share with you. And she brings on really great guests. And I can't talk and type at the same time. So here we go.
I will say one of the biggest compliments I've gotten is most of my guests say, like, I talked about stuff with you I've never talked about before. So apparently I agree with that kind of space, and it's fun.
Yeah, I love that. I know. It's cool that we met quite a long time ago and we've gotten to stay in each other's worlds for so long. It's really, and forever, really, it'll be amazing. Okay, let's see. We got some more comments. I just want to make sure. Samba, you're awesome. Thanks for leaving so many comments. They're really long, so I'm not going to put them on the screen, but he is thankful. We will respond to you I think you're on Facebook. Thanks for chiming in, and whoever does in the listening to the replay, go ahead and comment. We love hearing from you. We like to know that we're bringing value. If you have women health questions, contact Dr. Alex, ask questions on the post. We'll answer there. Check out her podcast, Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high performing women. She gives tons of awesome tips there. And then on my end, if you want to hang out with me and Dr. Alex more, then visit us at NFAMoneyMamas.com. So we have a really cool mastermind. Like, I have one of my most inspired quests is to bring women together who are ready to be financial powerhouses in their businesses, meaning that they love their business, they want joy, ease, flow, fun, and they're ready to hang out with other women. It was cool the other day. I asked the women in the community, like, what is the biggest thing you're getting out of this? And they all said community. It was like, it's community, right? Encouragement, connection. So you can sit in and check it out, NFAMoneyMamas.com, and see if it's for you and see if it's a good fit, and women are loving it. So check us out there. And that is it for us for today. Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Alex, and bringing all your tips. And everyone reach out with her. And until next time, NFA Money Making High Fives. Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful day or night whenever you're watching this.